Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July 12th, 2022 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Commission members are appointed by the Select Board to implement the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Milton Town bylaw governing the wetlands. As a matter of formality, we introduce ourselves. My name is John Kiernan. Steve, I'm just looking at the going across the board.
Steve Ibis, Conservation Agent.
Tom Palmer, Commission.
Todd Hamilton, Commission.
Wendy?
Wendy Garpo.
Ingrid?
Ingrid Beatty, Commissioner.
Arthur?
Arthur Doyle, Commission Member.
And I think the only one we're missing is Hans, but we're ready to go. As a matter of formality and the open meeting law as well, we invite everyone to speak, ask questions, make comments, but we do ask that you identify yourself for the record. And tonight we have a number of continuances and withdrawals, so we want to make sure that everybody knows that, because if you're waiting for an agenda item, and if it's going to be continued, I believe it's appropriate to announce the continuances first so that everybody is aware of those cases that are going to be either withdrawn or continued until August. And we had discussed as an item of additional business at our last meeting, which was actually June 28th, not so long ago, changing the date of our meetings. Because some of the meetings tonight are some of the agenda items tonight are going to be continued until August, I think we have to make a decision as to whether or not we will meet on the first Tuesday of the month as opposed to the second Tuesday of the month, or the third or the fourth for that matter, because we do need to continue these. Arthur, am I correct that the Select Board would like to utilize the second Tuesday?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. That is my understanding.
So is everybody in agreement that we can move our regular meetings to the first Tuesday of the month? Is there yes?
Fine with me.
Okay. Wendy, you okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Tom?
Yeah.
Arthur, the only one we're missing is Hans, I think, but everybody sounds like there's a consensus. So is there a motion then to change our regular meeting to the first Tuesday of the month?
So moved.
Thank you. Ingrid, is there a second? Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Todd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ingrid, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
And John Kiernan, yes, as well. So unanimous from the members of the board. We'll move our regular meeting to the first Tuesday, which next month will be August 2nd. Therefore, let me go to the agenda and address a number of different items. Number 6 on the agenda has been requested that we continue it until next month, which would be August 2nd. That's the order of conditions. I'm sorry, that's the request for determination of applicability at 1259 Brush Hill Road, Lot C. Number 7 on the agenda is the amendment of the order of conditions at 1259 Brush Hill Road, Lot D. The request is also to continue that matter until August 2nd. That is granted, and that will be on our agenda for the 2nd of August. Continuing on tonight's agenda, number 6, the notice of intent at 648, 652 Canton Avenue. The applicant has, yes?
That's number 8, John.
8, I'm sorry, number 8. 648, 652 Canton Avenue. The applicant has requested in writing that we continue this matter until the August meeting, which will be August 2nd. But before anyone disappears because of that continuance, there is one issue that we need to address at a public meeting, and that is the retention of the hydrology consultant. We've requested bids. We have 2 bids. I've sent those out to all of the members. It is our obligation at this point to select the lowest responsible bidder, which we can do, but I want to get through the agenda points. So we're going to hold on continuing number 8 temporarily. Number 9 is the notice of intent at 582 Blue Hill Avenue. at the written request of the applicant. That will be continued until August 2nd. Number 10 on the agenda is revised landscape plan at 593 Blue Hill Avenue. There has been a request to continue that matter, which is actually a matter of accepting a landscape plan and reducing a bond that we have required. That will be continued as well until August 2nd. Number 11 on the agenda is request for certificate of compliance at 105 Cabot Street. There has been a withdrawal of that request for certificate with the suggestion that they will refile after 2 growing seasons, which is a requirement for the survivability of the plantings. So that is off the agenda to be submitted at a later date. And number 12, finally, is the request for certificate of compliance at 175 Governor Stoughton Lane. And that is also at the request of the applicant to be continued until August 2nd. All right, with that said, let's go back to the beginning. And that would be number 1 on the agenda, notice of intent, Turner's Pond at Central Avenue.
John?
Yes.
do you want to Pick up number 8 at this time.
Sure, we could do that just for expediency. I think that probably makes sense. Thank you, Steve. Good suggestion. Number 8 for the public's benefit and for the applicant, and I know that some of the loyal opposition are here present as well. We have before us the commission's request under or pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53G of the General Laws of the Commonwealth. We are entitled to select, and the applicant, by the way, is eligible to object if they deign to do so. But we are able to select a consultant to aid us in this area, the hydrology area at 648, 652 Canton Avenue. We did make a request for bids to come in. We received 2, one from GZA, and for the public's benefit, they are the hydrology consultants also at 582 Blue Hill Avenue, but they have submitted a proposal for an engineering review at 648, 652 Canton Avenue. The scope is appropriate with one amendment, and that is they have used in that which we have before us the term engineering peer review. Our consultancy is not limited to a peer review, and the statutory framework goes beyond that, so that we seek the consultation with the hydrology group to any relevant question. And it's not simply a peer review of that which the applicant has submitted through its hydrology experts. So the language is a little bit broader than what you see here, but the scope is appropriate, and the dollar amount is $5,400. We also, and GZA, I believe to be a responsible bidder, since we've already retained them on the other project. The second bidder is GHC, which is Geohydro Cycle Inc. Also a responsible bidder. The scope is appropriate, although they in their language seem to limit it to peer review as well. And again, our request is for broader consultancy services. But their dollar amount is $8,700. And I think our obligation under the procurement rules and regulations is to go with the lowest responsible bidder. They both are appropriately qualified, both responsible bidders. And I suggest that at this time that we agree to retain, at the expense of the applicant, by the way, the GZA proposal. Is there any discussion from commissioners? I presume that you have read the scope of work that's been proposed as well as the dollar amount. Any questions from commissioners?
So they just need to revise their agreement to make sure that the scope is appropriate?
Yes, indeed. And this, the way it works, and we did this with the 582 Blue Hill Avenue as well, it goes to town council to tinker with the language, particularly some of the indemnity language, because we're a public entity. So town council will get involved in the language. We'll revise that to reflect the same language that was included. We had the same revision at 582 Blue Hill Avenue, so it'll be the same revision. It'll just broaden the scope of their review. And then it will be submitted to the select board. And by the way, it also has to go through Michael J. Kelly, who's a procurement officer for the town of Milton. But it is currently on the agenda for the select board for tomorrow night. If we recommend retention of the GZA proposal, that is retention of GZA for their proposal, it'll go before the select board for their approval because it's the select board that has to sign to commit the town to the contract.
Correct.
Arthur?
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members? Any question or comment from Phil? I don't see you. I hope you're still there. Phil Cordero, I hope you're still there.
I didn't see Phil earlier tonight, John. I'm sorry to say.
No, you're right. All right. Well, they can object to it at any time, but since they did not object on the other project, my speculation is that they will not object to GZA again, but I can't speak for him. Are there members of the public, abutters or any member of the public who would like to ask a question, make a comment, weigh in on the issue of who we should retain as a hydrology consultant?
Mr. Chair, Ned Corcoran, on behalf of many of the abutters, I think we're comfortable with the board selection.
Good. Anyone else with a question?
Mr. Chair, if I may, my name is Attorney Jesse Schomer. I represent the applicant in this matter, although this permitting process has been handled by our engineer, primarily Phil Cordero, who's not on the call tonight, as you noted. I just heard the tail end of what you said, that GZA will be selected for your peer review consultant, and we have no objection to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schomer. I appreciate that.
May I apologize for not being wearing a suit and tie tonight. I wasn't expecting to be on camera.
You are normally decked out appropriately, so I think I would recommend the commission give you a pass on this one.
Just this once.
Sounds good. All right. In the absence of any other comments from the public or otherwise, then is there a motion to recommend that the select board retain, with the applicant paying the funding for this, the GZA proposal with the revisions to just broaden the language so it's not limited to peer review? Is there such a motion? Mr. Doyle, will you make such a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A second, please. Todd, thank you very much. Wendy, all right. Any discussion from the commission members? Hearing none, there'll be a roll call vote. All in favor, Todd?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Arthur?
Yes.
And I, John Cannon, yes. So that's unanimous that the retention will go with the revisions discussed to recommend that the select board approve the retention of GZA as the hydrology consultant pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53G. Thank you very much. Now the rest of that matter is continued until August 2nd. And now we can return to the agenda, which will take us to Ernest Pond at Central Avenue. Who is the applicant in this?
That's me, Peter Jackson, for the Park Department.
Good evening, Pete, and welcome. Can you describe what the project is for the public's benefit?
Certainly. First, I want to thank you for giving me such a favorable location on the agenda.
Yes, indeed.
The project is to address two portions of the path that goes around the perimeter of Turner's Pond, that through settlement and erosion in the 12 years since the path was last reconstructed, there are areas that are subject to flooding again. Um, Thank you, Steve. I guess you put that up.
Yes.
And those areas are along the north side of the pond. Up at the top would be the Central Avenue and the Central Avenue parking lot. The lower right is the Glover School. And the project on both sections will in essence raise the elevation of the path approximately 6 inches. It'll vary a little bit, and the calculation of everything is based on 6 inches, but because some areas have settled more and some are less, it'll average 6 inches over the course of the pathway reconstruction. The north end, the longer end there, is about 1,000 feet of path, and on the south side is a smaller. It starts right near the inlet that comes in from Pine Tree Brook. Oh, now we're good.
Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, that's the path reconstruction. It starts on the other side, Steve, where the inlet for the from Pine Tree Brook comes in and goes about 540 feet till just shy of the large beech tree that everybody likes along the pond there. And none of it is in the BVW. There is some riverfront impact, and we've quantified that. There is filling the new path material, which is very similar to what's down in the path now. The combination of the new path material and then loaming and seeding the edges of the path. To compensate for that filling in the flood zone, we're creating 3 compensatory storage areas, and those are the dotted lines that you see on the plan here. And if you'd like me to go into more detail of those, I have enlarged ones of each of those areas with a grading plan and a planting plan. Let's go down below one to the path section, Steve, just so we can show what people are doing. Here we go. So this is the path section where in essence we're increasing the elevation 6 inches and then side filling with loam and seed on the edges. The other details show the erosion control that we are putting along the entire length of the construction between the path construction itself and the pond, just inboard of the wetland area. So even the erosion control won't have any impact on the wetland area.
Can you tell us about the composition of the fill?
It's 1/2 inch minus gravel fill, which is the same material that was put in when the path was constructed. Well, actually, the last time it was constructed, there were 2 different materials used. On the north side, which is the longer section of this, it was constructed with this 1/2 inch minus gravel. And then from the eastern side of the pond, Steve, if you go back up to the beginning, where the path plan, yeah, this plan, from where the current project ends on the eastern side, right there, around the rest of the path was constructed with a stabilized soil material last time. That for the most part, it's held up quite well, but we're using the same gravel aggregate material for the reconstruction of that site also.
Yeah. This is Ingrid. I've got a question also. So John, good question and kind of along the lines of what I was thinking. So I pretty regularly run around Turner's Pond, and the northern section is a different animal, and whatever was done the last time, the northern section deteriorated within a matter of a couple of years. And the rest of it held up pretty well. My question was, what are you going to do differently to address that problem? But it sounds to me that the answer to your last question was we're going to do the same thing. So I'm wondering if the strategy on the northern section, and actually sort of the northwestern section, I think is the worst of it. If maybe that merits some rethinking.
It really wasn't my observation or the park departments that it deteriorated that quickly. It didn't hold up for 10 years. It's probably been 4 or 5 years that's been subject to flooding again. One of the reasons for that is a lack of maintenance of the outlet pipe, which is down where Steve's cursor is. The water comes in along the south side as Pine Tree Brook rises. It overflows into the pond, and then it flows out again, tied directly into the elevation of Pine Tree Brook on the south side. But there's a grate there that as the water flows through, leaves, broken branches, and things like that collect there, and it wasn't very well maintained. I worked with the park department, to get into a more routine of checking that, because as it backs up there, then the elevation rises around, the water elevation rises quite a bit. And that's the primary reason for overtopping the path elevation. There are more stable materials and materials that can be added to an aggregate to make it more stable. It's the same kind of, it's a psyllium material, which comes from mushrooms, which is on the south side of the original construction. And we didn't do it in 2010 around the entire thing because of the excessive cost. I could talk to the park department about considering an alternate material that maybe compacts and holds better, yet it's got to be permeable.
Right.
So that would be the challenge there. I certainly could have a conversation with them, give them some cost estimates, and report back to you whether the notion of changing materials.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I mean, the southern side, at least in my opinion, seemed to hold up a whole lot better than the northwest side. There's that.
And that's because it's higher. It's a high off the water elevation.
Right.
So it really doesn't get overtopping from high water in the pond. And the reason on the south side for the deterioration isn't overtopping so much. It's water coming in from the wetlands there, adjacent to that side. And when we built that in 2010, we put in an under drain along there so that the water coming off the wetlands would be captured in the drain there and then drained to the side, which we've done in a couple locations on the northern. We did on a couple locations on the northern side, but that it was a different material on the south side than the north side.
Right.
But it's really the north side that's subject to the inundation from high water levels.
Exactly. I mean, on a bad day, you're up to your ankles almost.
Well, we won't be when we redo it for sure. But what the issue that you've got is how long will that last?
Exactly.
I mean,
appreciate your
maintenance would be helpful.
efforts. Yeah.
Pete, I've got a question that's kind of a follow-up to Ingrid's, and that is, whatever the material is that's used, and if there are different materials utilized, am I correct that the original intent to make this wheelchair accessible will still be in existence, and that is that whatever the material is used will be sufficient to handle wheelchair mobility for the entire circumference of the pond?
Yes, it will, John. When we specify the material, it's not a single size. It's not like 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch materials. It's a blend with finer and coarser grains. The coarser grain is what allows the percolation through, and the finer grains are what, when it's compacted very strongly, that's what binds it together to make it more stable. So what we do is put a blend of aggregates together that can compact and be stable and allow wheelchair accessibility. And so it's a combination of the material used and how it's compacted during construction. But the entire pathway will be accessible as it was last time.
Right, and it's probably appropriate at this time to honor the memory of Charlie Gamer, whose enthusiastic support a dozen years ago led to this, and along with you, Pete, because the two of you were the champions of this project back in 2009 and 2010. So I salute you for that. And I salute Charlie Gamer as well, and I honor his memory.
Yeah, terrific guy.
Questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Steve, in your cover letter, you say the project is being permitted as a limited project?
That's correct.
Yeah, and if you go to the notice of intent, Form 3, look at 7B. Is any portion of the proposed activity eligible to be treated as a limited project? And no is selected.
Oh, that's a typo.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. Well, one other thing, on the plantings, for instance, I'm looking at the plan entitled L3, new common storage area A. It's a
Page,
elongated.
Tom?
What's
What
that?
page? What page, Tom?
It's a plan called L3.
Up on the screen right now, Ingrid.
Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
If you look at that wide place in the area that's being excavated, the one down at the bottom, you can see that there's initials there marking the types of plants. And beside 10, it says TL, and besides 20, it says AT. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
To me, those initials seem to indicate those little areas where those plants will be placed.
That's right.
Yeah, and I noticed that those plants do not seem to me compatible because TL is Typha latifolia, which is cattail, and AT is Asclepias tuberosa, which is butterfly weed. Now, one always grows in water, and the other likes dry, sterile, sandy uplands. So they just don't seem likely to grow well in the same place.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how wet is that basin going to be? Because it's got to be really wet if you want cattail, and it should never be wet if you want butterfly weed.
Tom, there is a butterfly weed or milk. There's a milkweed that's obligate or fac wet.
Yeah, that's incarnatum.
Exactly. So that may just be a wrong.
Yeah, swamp milkweed.
Wrong species. Okay.
Yeah, I would say if it was swamp milkweed, then they would probably be okay together.
Yes.
Well, the swamp milkweed is the one that's good for the caterpillars. Anyway, the other ones they don't like.
Right.
So maybe the plan should be wherever you see tuberosa, you should cross out and write incarnatum.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the subject of plants there, and Pete, you may have noticed on that north side, there's a lot of multiflora rose. Would folks be amenable to purging the area of the invasive multiflora rose? You're smiling. I can tell you've seen it.
Oh, there's multiflora rose around the entire perimeter, and I've always thought of talking to the park department about doing an invasive species, doing a vegetation management plan
Right.
through the Concom in order to deal. There's a lot of bittersweet,
Yeah.
but that's a huge job, and it would cause a big change both to the some of the habitat values out there. If you got,
Can we make a dent? Because right there, it's right close to the path, I mean, I know it's all over the place, but the
Yeah.
north end seems to be particularly egregious.
It's all over the place. But I mean, the project as it does now doesn't touch anything on that side, on the outbound side of the path. It's the path, and then except the pet storage area on the north side is on the inbound side. But we really, that's
more
really
of a
not part of the project as we've defined it now. That it would be a big, a whole nother scope of work. And like you say, Ingrid, it's all over the place.
And Ingrid, I'd like to suggest that you get closer to the multiflora rows if you're trying to avoid the existing puddles. So hopefully there won't be any existing puddles.
You're right. Maybe that's why I noticed it so much on that side.
That's right. That's exactly right, you see.
I have bent pitchforks trying to get out multiflora rows. You have to know how to use a pitchfork or you'll just bend it all over.
There's
You
also
could plant multiflora rows as wind barriers along the highways, and it created quite a mess all over the place.
Smells great. Got a great fragrance.
There's also something called a weed wrench that works very, very well on multiflora rows.
Plant by plant.
Yes.
So with these suggestions, Pete, are they acceptable to the park department in terms of the plantings?
Certainly, we're open to reconsidering plantings, particularly, those who've pointed out some of the incompatibilities and perhaps better choices. So I'd be happy to work with the commission, to develop a revised planting list that the commission would find more appropriate.
The rest of it looked good to me, although I didn't study it at length. I just would like to say, this is a lot of good reading in this thing. You can learn a lot from this thing, but you need a half day to read it.
Thank you, Tom.
Is that a compliment, Tom, or not?
Yes, yes.
It's a combination of Steve and I. He was ready to put in a lot more material, but we didn't really need a whole county soils report or things like that.
Mr. Chairman?
Learn something, it's great.
Arthur?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John and Pete, maybe 6 months or so ago, by coincidence, when the Concom was on an unrelated site walk, we all met walking the path at Turner's Pond. You may remember that occasion.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the north side. We saw how it had eroded considerably. It had depressed, if I remember correctly, substantially. And the land, if you were walking toward the school, the land on the left-hand side off the path, do I recall that that was a lower land area?
As you get about halfway down toward the school, there is a low area there. That's where some wetland replacement was put in when the soccer field for the school reconstruction last time. The commission had the school building committee build a replacement wetland in there, and some of that water continues to leak, but there's a low section there, and we actually last time put an under drain there so we could pick up the water on the inbound side and pipe it under the path to the pond, and then it gets high again as you get close to the school.
Correct.
So it's both, yeah.
You're comfortable that that low area, this path section in the low area would be satisfactorily remediated without doing something to reinforce the low area for future depression and erosion? I remember you relating how the path used to be when you first worked on it
Yeah.
and what it had become during the intervening years. Is there anything that can be done to get more of a life expectancy over the work that will be done this time in that area in particular?
The intent is when we're transitioning from the areas we're not doing work, we'll have like 0 increase and then build up so that we'll actually have more than 6 inches in some of the lower spots. We could put more material in, but then that expands, the volume of both fill and loam and seed, and that requires greater areas of compensatory storage and possibility some wetland impacts if we go higher.
Right. Agreed. So I was wondering if there was going to be any beveling there so that the higher side of the path would be on the left toward that wetland and the lower, not by much.
Right.
On the right.
Yeah, just put a little cross pitch on it in order to build up that side a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah, it makes sense to do that. That'd be, an easy adjustment in the field in that low area to build as much as possible. We're trying to catch all the water on the outboard side and have it go under the path.
Understood. Thank you.
Right.
That's my only comment area. And following up on Tom's comment, I'm going to send my document back to you and to Steve for autographing.
Pete, I just thought of something else in terms of maybe contributing to the longevity of the the sort of updated amended path. I've been doing some trail work on the Long Trail in Vermont, and when people see puddles, they normally divert, and that expands and further deteriorates. So as you know, on those sorts of hiking trails, they put rocks or some deterrent, a log or a rock or something like that keeps people on the path to keep it from widening and further deteriorating the land. Have you thought anything about taking that sort of strategy?
I hadn't, but I imagine we could. I was going to use some rocks at the inflow. There's the head wall where water's coming in from Pine Tree Brook. Mm-hmm. There's some erosion right along the concrete head walls. Right. I'm going to use a couple of rocks there to kind of stabilize those edges. But I hadn't thought of using them for pedestrian controls. One of the difficulties out here is that when we built it in 2010, and there was neighbor opposition and things like that, so we made it as narrow as possible. And it doesn't work too well for two-way traffic. Plus, with all the dogs and things like that, there's always either people or dogs on the shoulders of the path, and it's kind of inevitable.
Right. Maybe
but
just,
there might be
maybe
some
just
areas,
try it on the northern side where it's particularly vulnerable to for the path to get beat up again.
Yeah. I could look into that. That might, in a couple select areas, it might make sense to kind of channel people a little bit.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from commissioners? How about members of the public, abutters, anyone? This is a notice of intent, and the question that I have is that we've talked about a couple of possible amendments here, one being the swamp milkweed as a designated plant. And the other one was Arthur's comment about, if I'm listening correctly, essentially building a berm or at least sloping the path towards the pond to get the water flow. Do we want to include that as, Pete, you mentioned it as a field change, but if we're approving a plan, should we have an alteration to the plan in that area where Arthur was concerned? To make sure that there's an elevation difference there, just to slope it towards the pond?
Yeah, I could identify an area, where I thought that might be effective and have a supplementary cross section that shows a cross pitch on the path in that area. And certainly I can, submit a revised planting plan, or you can note, I'd be happy to work with Tom and Ingrid and anybody else on strengthening the planting plan. And then I can submit a supplementary planting plan. So that would be a couple items. And then looking at Ingrid's idea, whether there's some opportunity to kind of channel people, keep people on the path more often. It's a struggle on a narrow path, but it's a good idea to try to reduce the amount of wear and tear on the shoulders.
All right, we can certainly take a vote on this contingent upon the submission of a revised plan, indicating what you just spoke of. If that's acceptable to the commission members. All right, in the absence of any other comments or questions, is there a motion to issue an order of conditions contingent upon a revised plan to address Ingrid's point and Tom's point and Arthur's point?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Tom. Is there a second? Yes, Wendy, thank you for the second. There it is. I knew we'd get a second. All right, any discussion among the commission members? Hearing none. Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ingrid, how do you vote?
Aye.
What did I miss? Myself.
Yes.
John. Did I see Ingrid?
Yes.
You're off it. You said yes, and John, Karen, and I said yes as well. Unanimous.
I think you missed Todd. Is that correct?
I can't. There you are. Now you're popping up. See, when you're screen sharing, I can't see everybody. Todd, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Look at that. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pete, very much for your work on this. This is a great project. All right, next on the agenda, we go to number 2. This is a request for determination of applicability at 65 Ruggles Lane. Ingrid, you want to speak?
Yes, John and I discussed that it would be appropriate for me to recuse myself, so I will. And will someone send me a text when you're ready for me to rejoin?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ingrid. All right, can the applicant tell us what the proposal is?
Good evening. My name is Jim Burke, civil engineer with Selberg Solar, and it's been a while since I appeared before you guys. I was thinking you guys would be doing live meetings by now, but I like Zoom. Steve's controlling the screen here. I think this is kind of a real simple project. We are proposing a new water service for 65 Ruggles Lane. It happens to be within the 200-foot riparian zone for Pine Tree Brook. We'll be tapping the main at the intersection of Ruggles and Herrick. And there's an existing 8-inch water main within the Herrick Drive layout, and the proposed service would run within the Ruggles Lane layout. Given the fact that there's going to be absolutely no, vegetation clearing and no changing grades or anything like that, I thought the request for determination of applicability was appropriate, despite the fact that it's, within the riverfront area. The town tree will be doing the work. They're capable of, putting this pipe in the ground in a couple of days, doing the work quickly. You're going to be repairing in kind the surface. Paved surfaces will be paved surfaces. The gravel drive ruggles will be gravel again. Erosion control will be used if needed, but I expect them to be excavating, putting the pipe in place and backfilling as they go. And they're going to be coordinating with the neighbors, given the fact that, there'll be a little bit of disturbance going with regards to, especially with Mr. Hinkle and his lot that'd be coming across his driveway. I talked to him and he's familiar with the town tree and the like and all the players. And Mr. Gustafson, the owner of 65 Ruggles, I saw him in the audience. I'm not too sure if he wants to say anything, but that's pretty much what the project is. Pretty, simple water service, happens to be within a 200-foot riparian. That open up the questions you might have.
How long will the trench be open, and how do you dig the trench? I mean, are they like in 20-foot segments? How is the construction plan organized?
You're gonna come up. You're probably gonna do that first stretch and all the way up to the corner of the house. You'll tap it and extend up Ruggles Lane. You're gonna have a vehicle. When I mean a vehicle, you're gonna have a dump truck filled with gravel that they're gonna be using to bed the pipe, and they'll just use that as a storage area. There's not enough room to kind of use the area for storage, so they'll use a dump truck and for that material, and they'll trench up to the corner of Ruggles Lane, I'd say in a day, backfill that in a day, and then make the turn and finish up on site.
All right.
And Jim, what is your standard separation from other utilities? Because I see a sewer line there. That's
10 feet. It's 10 feet.
10 feet, right. And if it comes to a point, we still have to go through DPW with an actual plan. This is kind of a cartoon.
right.
We pulled this together fairly quick to get a permit going for Mr. Gustafson's water service. And the water department, the engineering department is looking for a plan that'll have actually specific construction details for the tap and trenching services and that kind of thing.
Good. So we'd like a copy of that at some point in the future.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that separation on the record. That's all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we encroach, like you'll see it like a crossing with the sewer service and the water. If we have to sleeve it or use some concrete to provide a crossing that's needed, we certainly can do that. As long as the water itself is above the sewer, there really isn't a huge concern. Gravity is your friend in this particular instance.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 feet is your typical separation
Right.
for that.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions from commissioners?
How do people get their water further up Ruggles if there's no water in Ruggles?
Right now, you'll see on the plan, there's an old water service that extends through private property to School Street. That lot has been sold, and there is no easement apparently for that water service to exist. So we're extending it up off of Herrick Drive.
I guess I'm curious about, I see Ingrid's house is right here, but I don't see any water going to it. I guess you can't ask
it comes from the other direction, it comes from Central. It's quite a bowl of spaghetti back there. The services coming from all over the place for sewer and water.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gustafson, are you still with us? I don't see you, but that's.
I am here, yes, sir.
All right, would you like to make some comments or ask questions?
No, just we opened the meeting and I appreciate, again, the agenda placement here, number 2. And, the idea here obviously is that my neighbor's wife passed away. He went into a nursing home. He split the lot, decided to get a hole, and these lines were not documented. we want to make it right and make it permanent. And obviously, have worked in close collaboration with our neighbors, as we always do. And, are not sparing any expense to do this properly and right. So I've been living in this town. This is my second stint since 2001. And my wife and I pride ourselves of being good neighbors and taking care of the property and the environment and those kind of things. So, I'm deferring to Jim Burke and ultimately the town tree here, but we're trying to do this in the best, least disruptive way possible.
Understood and appreciated. Thank you. Any other comments from abutters or members of the public? This is a request for determination of applicability, and it may be, if the commission is so inclined, it might be appropriate to issue a negative determination with certain conditions. And one of them, and I know that Jim Burke is familiar with them, that the equipment can't be stored overnight or refueled within our jurisdictional reach. And then obviously that the safety component of open trenching would have to be, the safety component would have to be complied with in order to cover that so that no trenches are left open overnight. And it would be contingent upon, obviously, the approval of the DPW. And I would suggest that, and I know you were using an engineering term of out there, that this is more of a cartoon than an engineering plan, but we would like a copy for our file of the actual plan that you submit to DPW for approval.
Certainly.
And with those conditions and any other, I'd invite any other comments or conditions to go along with a negative determination from commission members. Steve, anything else that you could think of?
I don't believe so. This is a pretty cut and dried project.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Good. All right. Well, with those contingencies, is there a motion to issue a negative determination?
I move that we issue a negative determination.
Thanks, Tom. Is there a second?
Aye.
Thank you, Todd. Any further discussion? Hearing none. And I'm just doing that as I see people. Todd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom Palmer, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I can't see anybody else. Arthur Doyle, how do you vote? Ingrid Beatty, how do you vote?
Ingrid, recuse yourself.
She recused herself. Apologies. Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. John Kiernan votes yes as well. All right. Thank you. I think you're good to go. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Good evening. And I will text. All right. I just texted Ingrid. Hopefully she'll get the text and return. Stalling a little bit, and if anybody can see Ingrid before I do, will you just alert me? While we're waiting for the public's benefit, we're on agenda item number 3, amendment of order of conditions 654 Canton Avenue. But before the applicant begins, I can call her. Is she back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great. Perfect. Thanks, Ingrid, for coming back. And Ingrid, just for your benefit and knowledge of the public, that was a negative determination with conditions, DPW approval, engineering plan submitted to us, and our usual prohibition of overnight storage or refueling on site within our jurisdiction. And so we're all set to go on number 3, 654 Canton Avenue.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I'm Kristen Rappa, 654 Canton Ave. Thank you very much for hearing us this evening. Shall I tell you a little bit about what we're looking to do?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I know that Steve scrolled along a letter that I submitted. Basically, this is amendment to the order of conditions that we were granted in the end of the year of 2020. for a garage to be built. That's what we're looking at now on the screen. The location of the garage is, that's the approved plans. The amendment is that we would like to, we have not started anything at all. We would like to move the garage up towards the driveway. So that would be, I guess, I'm not actually seeing a key here to say north, but up. Up the, I'm assuming nobody else really knows these plans except for me, of course. But more towards the road, away from the 100-foot buffer zone. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Steve. That's where the cursor is. So we would move the garage placement up, and where the garage was approved, we would like to put in a above ground pool there. So we are opting for, or we would like to consider an above ground pool, as we feel like it's least invasive. So that what we're looking at now is a version. So I've given 2 copies for the board to consider: a version with a slightly smaller garage, so a 24 by 36, 24 by 24 foot garage. The original approved garage size was 24 by 36. So what we're looking at right now is the, I'm going to say, approved size garage moved up to the location that we just talked about, but the old location of the pool that you can see behind the blue, which is a gray square, would be basically what we're asking for approval for an above ground pool. We would then do, wood decking or composite decking to surround the pool. And it would, we feel as though that this would be the least impact to the property, the surrounding area. So that.
Do you know what the increase is in impervious surface, including the garage we already knew because it was approved, but that you've got a breezeway and then you've got the pool and you've got a patio surrounding the pool, or a deck?
So
deck?
the breezeway is pretty much a deck. So just to say that we weren't looking for it to be like built in and foundation, if you will. So it's basically a porch area. So in regards to increased impervious, I guess that would just be the pool area. I apologize that I'm saying it with a question in my voice, but that space or the size of the pool that we have drawn in on those plans is 12 by 24.
But the deck would also be impervious, would it not? That is the breezeway area?
I understood impervious to be that something that the water cannot go through. So yes, we are looking for a maybe some overhead, I guess. Please excuse my ignorance. I'm going to say it like that. We are, maybe this is a letter of intent. I'm presenting this to the board to see if this is a possibility, is basically what I'm asking for.
This area here where that deck is going to be is already paved.
Yes, so thank you. Okay, yes, my husband is bringing to my attention that currently the area where the deck is already paved. That is existing paved area of our yard.
That's important, because we're not hung up, or at least I'm not hung up on necessarily on the size of it, but what I'm hung up on is where's the water going to go?
Sure. Yes.
But the fact that your husband pointed out is correct, that if it's already macadam, then the water is going somewhere. I just want to see if there's an increase in water that's going to flow somewhere else, and if so, where's it going?
Sure. So the area that we're looking to place the pool is a dirt area. It's a incline or a decline, if you will. It goes from 119 grade. I'm sorry, I don't know what the elevation, the measurement is. Yes, thank you. 119 to 117. So it's already going down, down into the lowest spot of the yard is 117. And that's yes, exactly where the cursor is now. That's the lowest spot of the yard. And that would be where, again, these plans were created for us by an architect as an idea. So what we're looking at right now is not as, I'm going to say factual as the other set of plans that I provided that has the slightly smaller garage. So this is an idea that we have, and the pool being the 12 by the 24 would be the only additional impervious impervious area, because right now that's dirt and we would be placing the pool.
John, it would actually be less the way they have it now than if the garage was back there and they paved all the way down to it.
True.
Understood. What about the pool itself? That's I think it's important for the public's benefit. It's a saltwater pool, and it's a closed system with a cartridge filter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Those are important factors to us.
Certainly.
All right. Questions from commissioners? Nothing? Because if we address this, we'd have to have two votes. The first one would be, is this a minor revision? Because if it is, we can vote that it's a minor revision and then vote to revise the order of conditions. If it's not a minor revision, then you have to file a new notice of intent. So we have two votes. But before we get to that stage, are there abutters or members of the public that would like to make a comment or ask a question? Hearing none. I'll go back to the commission. Any concerns? Because we actually have an option here of a smaller garage or the same size garage. I think to me, Todd's point, I think, is a valid one. As a matter of fact, it was the applicant's point that if it's already paved, it's already impervious. So that by moving the garage up or north or whatever direction that is, it's not increasing impervious surface.
Correct.
Well, it's actually decreasing it, John, because if the garage was back where the pool is, they'd have to pave all the way to the garage.
Right.
Right, understood. Understood.
Although
the pool itself is impervious.
Correct.
Okay. Tom, I missed what you said.
Yeah, I would support this being a minor revision because I don't think there's a significant increase in impervious.
All right. Any other comments, concerns, questions? Wendy, I can't see you, but so I don't know if you're waving your hand or not.
No questions, John. Thank you.
All right, then without questions or comments from others, the members of the public, and no further questions from the commission, is there a motion to make a determination that this is a minor revision?
So moved.
Thanks, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Todd. Any discussion? All in favor? And this is just the first vote, that this would be a minor revision. Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Todd?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Arthur?
Yes.
And yes for John Kiernan. So that's unanimous. It's minor. So is there now a motion to approve this revision and thereby revise the order of conditions that was previously issued?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Thanks, Todd. Any discussion? I will make a comment that the conditions of the original order of conditions would still be in place.
Certainly, of course.
Okay. So with that comment, how do you vote, Tom?
Aye.
Todd?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Arthur?
Yes.
And yes for John Kiernan as well. Unanimous vote. You've got a revised order of conditions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your help this evening. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Which takes us now to amendment of order of conditions 1672 through 1726 Canton Avenue, Walcott Woods.
All right, should I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Steve Gallagher, Development Manager for Northland Residential. And as you said, I'm here regarding the Walcott Woods project on Canton Ave in Milton, a project that I know that most of you are very familiar with. Just a quick update on where we are. We've basically completed the first phase of the site work. We have completed the first phase of the site work, and we've basically completed the unit construction all along Walcott Woods Lane for the first phase. We're now extending the road work, the site infrastructure for the second phase, which if you think of the site work, the site like a clock, that's essentially wrapping around in a counterclockwise direction up to the top of the site. So we're in the process of building that stage of the road right now, and we'll continue on building units. We're here because we've made a couple of changes in the past several years, which are now approved by the planning board, and we're here to kind of complete the process with the Conservation Commission. So this is not a new change that we're presenting to the town. It's something that has already been discussed, in the planning board venue at least. There's really two components to that. One is that in 2020, we changed the architecture. So we had essentially, kept the site plan in place, but changed the aesthetics of the buildings, and that entailed certain changes, to the footprints, where they bump in and out a little bit differently than the other buildings did, but essentially not much in the way of dramatic changes to the footprints. That being said, certain of those footprints are at least partially within the 100-foot buffer, so it is within Concom jurisdiction. And for the first three of those, which were buildings 5, 6, and 7, we came back later that year in 2020 and received Concom approval to make those footprint changes. So those are kind of right in the center of the screen that you're looking at there, buildings 5, 6, and 7. We made one other change this year at the planning board, changing certain aspects of the site plan, most notably removing one new unit from the center of the site. So what we're calling Walcott Cluster in the center of the site there near the existing Walcott House. Previously, we had buildings 8 and 9, which were 2 duplex buildings, so a total of 4 units. We removed one new unit and put it in the existing Walcott House. So whereas previously we had 2 buildings with a total of 4 units, we now have 3 buildings that are single. So it's a reduction in physical density in the site in that area, reduction of 1 footprint. And then obviously adding a unit within the existing Walcott House, which is not changing the coverage of the site to the same extent. So that's actually a reduction in physical density there. But again, those 2 units or those 2 buildings, 8 and 9, are at least partially within 100-foot buffer. So that's a matter that's before the Conservation Commission as well.
I have a question on this, if I may.
Sure.
Could you just go over this in terms of the reductions of buildings and reductions of units, just to be sure I'm clear?
Yeah. Could we zoom out just a little bit so we can see the whole thing?
Sure.
Sure. So what you're seeing there with the dark red lines are the old, previously approved or originally approved by the planning board and the Conservation Commission footprints that are within the 100-foot buffer. So those are the ones that are kind of, at least in terms of the Conservation Commission order of conditions, those are still active and we're looking to change them. On the left-hand side of the screen, you have, quite simply, it's just 3 duplexes that now have slightly different footprints than the old duplexes. Not dramatically different, but slightly different. Obviously, you can see how they overlap or don't, in relatively limited ways. The grades aren't dramatically different. They're blended into the grades that are approved, and the limit of work is not changed at all. So that's what's on the left side of the intermittent stream. Then on the right side, you have at the top what's approved as a single family and will continue to be a single family. So the red is the old, the gray underneath is the new. A little bit of a different shape, but it's same idea, single family. And then below that, you have buildings 8 and 9. So those previously were 2 duplex units, duplex buildings, so a total of 4 units. They now become 3 singles, total of 3 units in that location. And one of them, building 8A, is actually totally outside the 100-foot buffer. So it's really only 2 buildings, 2 singles now that are partially within the 100-foot buffer. That's 8B and 9.
And Steve, I might add that the green line, the green dashed line is the 100-foot buffer here.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
So you can see they're not entirely within it, but they're partially within it.
Can you put your cursor on that line that you were referring to?
Sure, right here, for example. See the dashes, green dashes, John.
Maybe I'm colorblind.
There is a green colorblind.
I know, but I haven't had it yet, so maybe I just got it. All right, I see the line you're referring to. Thank you.
And Steve, I think you may have had a conversation with Deb Keller, right? Who's not on the call tonight, but she's the engineer of record who, you know, in accompaniment with this sketch that we're looking at now, presented new stamped drawings, you know, describing the change.
Yes, exactly. I did have a nice conversation with Deb, and she explained it to me as well. So I understand it as well as I can.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Sure. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it as well.
Sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm looking at building 25. We were just talking about it on the right side, the one on top.
Yep.
The red outline is the old alignment.
Yes, that's right.
And next to it, it seems to interfere with building 24. Is building 24 also the old alignment?
So what you're looking at underneath in the gray is the new alignment that's now approved by the planning board. So you have building 25. They're both kind of perpendicular to the road just above, so they're not conflicting. But the old, I mean, we did make additional changes, you know, to the footprints of those too. Obviously, all the buildings have new architecture, so the footprints have shifted a bit. But I just showed in this sketch the ones that are, you know, within Concom jurisdiction, so they're at least partially within the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So they're, yeah, it's just the gray ones are what will be there.
Any change in impervious surface within our jurisdiction?
No, there's not. I mean, within the 100-foot buffer, no, because the impervious is all outside of that. Oh, actually, you know, I mean, if you're speaking of the building itself, that would be the only change. And, you know, my understanding, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I know Deb calculated it, that it's actually a reduction. As I said, you know, the main difference is buildings 8 and 9, and you're losing footprint there. So there's less building footprint within the 100-foot buffer than there was before.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So there's a net reduction in impervious surface.
Yep.
Got it. All right, any commission members with questions or concerns?
I'm not here, John. That was a very helpful explanation. Thank you.
Sure.
Any abutters or members of the public that would like to ask a question or be heard? All right, again, this would be a 2-vote issue. One, whether or not this is a minor revision, and then secondly, whether to make the minor revision to the original order of conditions. So taking the first step first, is there a motion to deem this to be a minor revision to the original order of conditions?
I'll move that it's a minor revision.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Thanks, Todd. Any discussion among commission members? Hearing none. Todd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ingrid, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I'm a yes too, John Kiernan. That's unanimous that it's a minor revision. Next, is there a motion to approve this revision to the order of conditions that was originally issued by the commission?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any discussion? Hearing none, and I'm just going by what I see in the screen here. Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ingrid, how do you vote?
Aye.
Todd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well, John Kiernan. That's unanimous. You've got your revised order of conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
Steve.
evening.
Sure.
Next on the agenda is number 5. That's request for certificate of compliance, 328 Adams Street. Do we have the applicant? Mr.
We
George?
do, Mr. Chair, Ned Corcoran, here on behalf of Michael and Cynthia George, who are the owners of the property at 328 Adams Street. I'm also joined by David Charlakin and Steve Garvin from Samiotis Consultants, which is the engineer of record, and Tom Lee, who had prepared planting plans previously for the commission. This is a large property owned by the Georges. They are selling. We have a closing this month on a sale, and title revealed that we had not secured certificate of compliance for the work that was previously approved in 2014 for work within the 100-foot buffer. You may recall, Mr. Chair, that the property, this property abuts the Forbes Woods, and a portion of the property, which is a large lawn, is surrounded by an old stone wall. And Mr. George restored that wall. I think may have been started work within the 100-foot without having secured approvals. I remember at least 1 or 2 site walks with the commission back in 2014 with respect to that. In any event, the wall has been substantially completed in accordance with the approved plan. Mr. Garvin from Samiotis has submitted this as-built plan and a certification. The work has been substantially performed as required. There was also approved a planting plan. You can see that within the area of the property, there is an impervious walkway that sort of meanders around the outside of the lawn within feet of the wall. Just as you follow that cursor, you can see the 100-foot line comes just in off of the corner of the wall and comes across. The wetlands are all on the Forbes Woods side of the property. I think one of the issues back in 2014 is that Mr. George may not have been aware of the location of wetlands off his property when he started doing work. In any event, there was a planting plan that was created by Tom Lee that called for some installation of some understory trees and other plantings, particularly between the walking path and the wall. At the end of the day, given cost and other things, the Georges decided not to install those plantings. Instead, they just simply planted grass lawn with other sort of ground cover, not grass between the wall and the walking path. So they did not install trees understory trees that were originally proposed and approved by the commission as part of its order of conditions. I think there were 5 understory trees that would have grown to a height of about 20 feet. Steve and I walked the property yesterday with David Charlakin from Samiotis. Showed him there's a photograph that's attached to a letter that was submitted. Actually was submitted late today. I apologize. I was out of pocket most of the day, and Tom Lee submitted a letter to me this morning that I forwarded to Steve earlier this evening. But there's a photograph that just shows lawn and none of those trees. I've been authorized by Steve and I talked about that. The fact that if this were a situation where trees were removed, either in error or otherwise, that the commission would request a replacement of trees or perhaps a payment into the fund to provide replacement of trees elsewhere. I understand that the value of that replacement is generally $500 per tree. I've been authorized by Mr. George to offer $500 per tree to cover the cost of the 5 trees that were never planted, that would have been planted within the commission's jurisdictional area. With that, I think otherwise the project was developed substantially in accordance with the plans that were approved as part of the order of conditions. And I would ask the commission to grant a certificate of compliance in this case with the condition that be conditioned upon the payment into the town of the amount of $2,500 as I suggest. Happy to open up to questions.
Mr. Chairman, a question. If I may, Mr. Courtney, this is the large red brick house
Yes.
that we looked at about 14, 15.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank
It was
you.
a full restoration, beautiful house.
Yeah.
Full house was restored. Did all sorts of beautiful work to the grounds. I think his dreams were greater than ultimately he was able to do, and so he in terms of the lawn work, it just kept it very simple. And the wall itself was beautifully restored physically.
That was a major.
I remember the wall, and I remember being there, but I don't remember the pathway. Can you put the cursor where the pathway is? Because as I'm looking at it, it's at the bottom of the diagram. But is there a pathway that is adjacent to the wall?
It ran off the circle in front of the house, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but that's not where the cursor is. That's not where the wall is. The house is set back away from that wall.
Yes. There's
There's
the
a-
walking
there is a-
pathway.
No, I thought you asked about the path, John. I'm
I
sorry.
did. I did.
Okay.
And the pathway looks like it's running along where the wall is, where
It's
Steve's cursor is.
it's about 10 to 15 feet inside the wall.
Right.
It's a pervious pathway. It's gravel that wanders all the way around inside the wall.
All right, that was not part of the order of conditions, correct?
I think it was part of the plan showing. I don't know.
Let's see, I can get the plan up. I think I have it here. This plan right here. There's one plan. Do you see that?
See what?
Another plan that I just put up that has some
No.
paint and
No.
green on it.
No, we don't. We see
don't
the
see
original.
that.
It hasn't changed, Steve.
Okay, sorry, I will, new share, okay. There we go. There's one plan. You see it now?
I see the plan, but I'm not oriented as to where the wall is. The wall is at the top where the cursor is.
Yes, the wall is at if the north is up, it's on the northwest corner. There's no path on that one. And there's another plan as well. Hang on. Let's see. I think that's this one. There we go. Let's get new share. So it's that plan. I think. Bring it out here. And there's the path. Let me see. Sorry, different orientation. Hang on a sec. Move this.
You need to rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise.
Right. How do we do that? Any idea?
Right click on the drawing.
Right click on the drawing?
Yeah, rotate. You have to rotate it 3 times.
Sure. Thank you, Tom.
It's annoying.
There we go.
There we go. And so there's a pathway right here.
Is this the house that used to be Beatrice Forbes?
No,
No, a different one.
yes. She's out closer to Marcrest Drive.
Okay. My mistake.
Can you scroll up a little bit, Steve, please?
Sure. Like that?
Yes. Thank you.
The house is actually here. This is the
Right.
house. Okay, there's a pool here. There's a grove of old cedars here. A driveway.
Right. Do I remember that the path intersected at some point with the driveway, not far from the
I
front
don't,
of the house,
There's
or
a
am I
fairly
wrong?
large, there's a fairly large gravel parking area right where Steve's cursor is.
Yep.
And then down, just as you head down below that, it does intersect with a gravel path.
Okay, I thought I remembered that.
Yeah, that I remember. I don't recall a path up by the wall.
this
Yeah, I
was,
thought it ran parallel to the wall, John.
And where were the trees going to be planted?
If you go to the other plan that you had, Steve, there was a planting plan that showed
share. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So there's some dotted pinks and some dotted greens there. Those are trees and shrubs. And if I
Yeah,
zoom,
that was my memory. So that's why I don't remember the pathway, because that's where I thought the trees were going.
right,
At the end of the day, the Georges did not pursue this more complicated planting plan. They simply planted grass, preserved existing trees, but just planted basically lawn and some other low ground cover.
Understood. Any questions from commissioners, comments, concerns? Are there Todd?
No, I didn't say anything.
All right. Butters, members of the public that have a question or a comment? All right. So the issue is whether or not we should issue a certificate of compliance based upon substantial compliance with the deviation being the 5 trees that were not planted. And the applicant has offered $2,500 in lieu of those 5 trees. Is there a motion to accept that offer of $2,500 and to issue a certificate of compliance?
I'll move accordingly, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr.
I'll
Doyle,
second.
Second. Thank you, Todd. Any discussion? Tom Palmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur Doyle?
Yes.
Todd Hamilton?
Yes.
Wendy Garpo?
Yes.
Ingrid Beatty?
Aye.
And John Kieran, aye as well, unanimous. So the order of conditions, the certificate of compliance is issued. Thank you very much, Ned.
That's
Appreciate it.
terrific. Thank you.
All right. And that was,
thanks, Ned. Yeah.
that was 5. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 have been continued. So we now go to 13, information regarding a proposed playground, Beverly Park near Pope's Pond Park.
That's me, Jackie Golden. I have some materials. I don't know if they're going to be pulled up or if you want me to share them.
If you would like to, yes, please.
Perfect. All right.
We've got to just get you to share, right?
Yes.
Okay. Jackie, right?
Yes.
And let's see. How to what? I'm not sure how to do that. Sean, are you available? Sean Doyle?
Uh-oh. We're helpless without it.
Yes, sorry.
Tom, do you know how to do it? To share?
I
think
can
it's either
share my
Steve or
screen, but
Sean.
I don't know who else's I can share.
Right.
Steve has the capacity. but Mike is sort of the master of ceremonies. I'm sorry, Sean is.
Yes. I can find Jackie, and I don't know how to elevate her to share a screen. Anybody else understand that process? I have, Jackie, I have some of the materials. Are you going to show what you sent in?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to show anyways.
Okay, I think I have those. One moment, please. Let me see if I
Okay.
can find them.
All right, and we all have the written materials that you submitted.
Yeah. All right, well, that's happening. I guess I'll just introduce myself and why I'm here, why I was directed to you guys to present here. So my name is Jackie Golden. Again, I also want to say thank you for putting me on the agenda. My husband and I were born and raised in Milton, stayed local, and actually just bought a house on Kevin Road. I think it will be 4 years in September. You know, with 3 kids, we've probably hit every playground more than we can count in the town. So we, you know, as we moved to the neighborhood we are currently in today, we noticed Pavilion Park. If you want to go to the next slide down, yeah. So just, I'm sure everybody knows where this is, but just in case, it is off of Canton Ave, spits out the trail that goes around Pope's Pond. And the next one is just a screenshot from the street or a photo from the street, just to, if that rings a bell for people. So as you know, doing a lot of walks around the neighborhood during COVID when there was nothing else to do, my husband and I saw, you know, we started thinking, you know, could this be a possibility to put a playground in this area of town? So I'm kind of coming forward to you guys to say, like, I don't know any history about Beverly Park, who it belongs to, what it is, restrictions or anything like that, but just wanted to know, like, does this proposal have legs to it? Is this even possible? Is this a non-starter? Possibly putting a public space here. So if you scroll down a little bit more, this just shows, you know, all the playgrounds in Milton. I didn't put any of the elementary school playgrounds just because there is restricted access while school is in session. It just shows like how there are a lot more on one side than the other. And if, you know, there was a possibility of putting a playground at Beverly Park, it would help a little bit. It would put another one in that shaded area. So if you just scroll down, you can see that demonstrated. Because as of right now, like in our area where we live, there isn't, you know, an easy one to walk to. You have to go across the parkway. I mean, driving somewhere isn't the end of the world, but there isn't one in a walking distance. So again, just last slide. If you scroll down, thank you. Again, just pulling this forward, I reached out to Park and Rec initially during probably a year and a half ago to say, like, is this possible? I'm sure people have asked you about this before, and they said, no, actually, we haven't been asked this question before. They actually recommended, let's see what comes out of the Ice House project and see if this could be lumped into it, because I believe at the time, fixing up the trails around Pope's Pond was part of that project, and if this could be extended into it. So just throwing that out there, I don't know anything about that project, but that was put up as an idea. Again, I have been hearing a lot of 100-foot clearance on this meeting, so I don't know if this is a non-starter because of that. I know the brook is right there in the Pope's Pond, but just throwing it out there to see if there's any next steps. If there's any history around it that you can share.
Jackie, what do you envision? When playground means different things to different people. What do you envision? Are you talking about a swing set and a slide or what?
Yeah, so kind of mirroring what has been done over the past few years to all the playgrounds in Milton, kind of pretty much all the ones I've been listed. Like, I think when I was talking to the Park and Rec, he said the smallest one was at Kelly Field, which would probably be a good fit.
Which field?
Kelly Field.
Okay.
So something similar to that. So I was probably, yeah, like a swing set, jungle gym, something similar to, I think it's the Elliott Street Playground or the Kelly Field Playground, just something there for the neighborhood children.
John?
Yes.
Maybe I can help a bit. As some of you know, I live right in front of Andrews, and there's one of these playgrounds in Andrews Park. It's a miraculous transformation since it was installed about, what, 4 years ago, would you say? And the use that it is given, particularly by younger children, and I'm going to say 8 and below, is fantastic. It has really transformed the area, made a significant cultural impact for recreation and enjoyment. And you just have to come by my house anytime, sneak down that little line of a road into Andrew's parking lot and just walk over, and I think you'll really enjoy it. In fact, I'll bring my grandchildren with you, John. Maybe you can bring yours and watch them have a great time together.
I've been there. I've been there.
All right, so you know.
I do.
Yeah, and I think just to go off of that, I actually grew up on Church Street, and so which was a block over from Andrews Park, and I think it was a little bit of an eye-opening experience moving to Kevin Road, where there isn't a playground, and it was kind of like, oh wow, you know, I was spoiled back then having, you know, one, even Cunningham Park was even that far of a walk, but yeah, being spoiled, being so close, and I 100% agree that it is, it's very much a community thing, you know, like I feel like that's lacking over in our area, where there's a lot of turnover now, a lot of families moving in, and we're kind of all like chomping at the bit to like socialize and be with each other and like have all our children play together. And even like my parents who watch my children, you know, take them somewhere with other parents who watch, grandparents that watch their children. So I really appreciate you saying that.
What I don't know the answer to this question, but I believe that the Conservation Commission owns the land, if that's the right term. In addition to having it be jurisdictional to us, I think we have the deed for the land surrounding Pope's Pond, and we are looking at, and have been for a number of years, putting in, or you know, encouraging some applicant to put in a bridge to get over Pine Tree Brook at the southern end, at the Canton Avenue end of it, so that people could circumnavigate the whole pond and get around there. So that's on our radar screen and has been for a number of years. At one time, we had the support of the engineering department at Northeastern University. They lost their funding a couple of years ago, and some steam went out of that project, but we've had some recent discussions with the Friends of Pope's Pond, and that's still extant. Do you know what the position is, if there is such a thing as a position of the Friends of Pope's Pond? It's an organized group that has appeared before the Conservation Commission to talk about a number of different things, one of them being that bridge. And I didn't know if you had consulted with them and what's their feeling of
No,
putting swing sets.
I have not. I didn't know that group existed. Literally, this has just been my second step after contacting Park and Rec a year and a half ago. And then I was directed to Kathy Bowen, who directed me to this agenda. So that's the extent of what has been done before this. So I'm really haven't done, I don't know where else to go, as this has been my first step. So no, I have not.
Sure, that's great. And this is informational. This is perfect. I mean, that to open the discussion and start thinking about it. Tom Palmer, do you know whether or not there's any kind of active recreation versus passive recreation as part of the deed to the Conservation Commission? I don't know the answer to that question.
I have no clue. What I would say about that group, I belong to it. The guy who organized it, a realtor who lived, I forget what street, Dexter, I believe he moved to New Hampshire. Other members were Joe Sloan, Ruth Baltopoulos. So I think that group is sort of dissolved. I just haven't had a meeting in a long time. As far as this property, it is a large field. I often cross it because I would be coming out of Pope's Pond and headed to the auto repair guy. And there is a trail that comes out of the north end. Other than that, there is nothing except a very large grassy area and a stone with a plaque in it, I think. I don't often see people using the area. It's sort of forbidding because it's so big and open. Certainly kids could use it to play ball or soccer or whatever. I just haven't seen it. I think this idea is a good one and it's probably not likely to impact the brook.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Yeah, I second that. It is deceivingly big. Once you get into the field, you're like, oh, wow, this is a decent size. And other than a few people throwing the ball to their dog, I haven't really seen much action. And I think it would be a really efficient use of the space.
What about the schools? I've now lost count of which schools have playgrounds. Tucker still has one, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And Glover, I know, does, and Cunningham and Collicott, I presume, do.
High school, no.
What's that?
None at the high school, I don't think. For, young kids.
There used to be one there, but no longer. All right, so what's the next step and suggestions? Is the proposal feasible? It sounds like it is. I think you'd have to take a look at, perhaps we can look at it too in terms of, I'm not aware of any restrictions in terms of active versus passive recreation, but what about funding? Is this something, have you talked to the folks at the park department?
Yeah, so I talked to Kevin Prism at the Parks Department, and I believe he said, so I asked, because I knew this question was going to come up about funding, and I had no idea how much playgrounds go for or whatever. And he said when that there was a Facebook group who collected donations via Facebook to help fund the renovations of all the playgrounds. I believe it was around $200,000 a playground. So thinking about that, leveraging that Facebook group again, I don't know. There was that idea of having it be part of that ice house project and lumping this into that. I have no idea if that's possible, but I think the first step was just seeing if this was a starter or non-starter, but yeah, I don't know if there's any grants or if this is just going to have to be like a fundraiser type situation.
All right, I think they did that at Glover School when that was upgraded, so to speak. They actually put a lot of money into that. And then there was a group of parents at the Collicott School. They wanted to expand into, I think it's actually Conservation Commission land behind Collicott. And this is probably 5 years ago, there was a parent group that was kind of an offshoot of the parent teacher organization. And they were exploring it and it kind of died. or at least I lost track of it because I know I was dealing with Mary Gormley with it for a while. She had asked me for some advice on that issue, and we actually had it delineated, and that's probably 8 years ago. So that I think funding might be an issue, but there are, as you said, there are some grants for it and fundraising groups, and there are ways to do it. So next step, we ought to take a look at the deed for that land. Say again? I'm sorry, I missed that. But we can take a look at the deed for that land, and I think that's probably something that Alan Bishop could help us with. Is that correct, Arthur?
That would be true.
We can
I'm
take a look
looking
at
at
that.
one map right now, and of course, there are two brooks in that area. There's both Pine Tree Brook, of course, and Trout Brook. So it's quite jurisdictional if I read this. It's at the intersection of Sumner Street, rather, and Canton Avenue, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yeah, it would be the same as Pine Tree Brook at Glover School. I mean, we've got the playground there. I know that school department, but same proximity to the brook. So I agree, it's 100% jurisdictional.
And one of the nice thoughts about this is that it can bring families and young children at an early age to this often secret treasure in the town of Milton.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
I think the playground could be built entirely in the lawn area because it's so big. Along the brook, there is an engineered bank of a consistent slope. And at the top of the bank is a thicket of shrubs. It's a linear thicket along the brook. So it's really pretty hard to see the brook because the shrubs are so thick. Some of them are multiflora. But just on its own, I think the playground could fit there very easily.
Tom, one of the things that would have to be given consideration is parking. There certainly would be done on Canton Avenue, so parking would have to be on Sumner.
Yes, that's for sure.
Fair enough. All right. So what do you think the next steps are? We can take a look at the deed language. And Jackie, you may want to. What about Joe Madugno? Was he involved in the Friends? I heard what you said, Tom, that it may be defunct now, but it's not been that long that we heard from. I know Joe Sloan was involved with it. Is there anything left? Because that, their support would be, I think, critical to getting it done, number one. Number two, it might also be a source of fundraising.
Well, I can let the Parkway Friends know about it.
All right, and can you stay in contact with Jackie so that she's in the information loop?
Okay. I don't have your email, Jackie. I don't know how I should contact you.
Jackie, why don't you send your contact information to Kathy Bowen or Steve Ivas? And they're on the town website, and then we'll have your contact and you'll be able to contact the commission members.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
All right, that's good. Do you have anybody else working with you on this project or this idea?
No, my husband.
All right.
Telling a few neighbors. Yeah, I've been telling a few neighbors here and there about it, like to get their idea. Like, do you think this is good? And I mean, everybody's been saying, "Oh my God, that'd be amazing." So,
Jackie, I think you would want to make contact with the group that sponsored the reconstruction of the playgrounds at different locations throughout town, because they would be very resourceful for you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
You can help me out. What's on Churchill's Lane between Randolph Avenue and Churchill's? Isn't that Mary Ellen Park? Is that what's down in your, as Brooks?
Yeah,
playground?
it used to be Mary Celine, but now it is Brooks.
Playground?
Yeah.
Oh. I must be dating myself. When did that change?
Well, Rich Hill, I think donated a lot of money in honor of his lost son. They named it after him, Brooks Hill Playground.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. All right, well, thank you very much. So if you contact either Kathy Bowen, and she's at the DPW, but she's the Conservation Administrative contact person, and Steve Ivas, yeah, you can then make sure that we'll be in contact with you and continue the information flow back and forth.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you for your presentation and for your interest.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is additional business. Steve, do we have anything?
Yes. Forgive me, I was just writing away. Yes, we do. The first piece, do we have, let me think, do we have anybody from the DCR here tonight? Let me ask that question. Okay, anybody from DCR here? They have informed us of some work they're going to do out on Truman Highway. And I wanted to get it up on the Zoom and let's see if I can find it. They're going to put in one boring on the riverside of Truman Highway, opposite, I think it's 176 Truman Highway. And that's the reason for that work is there's a pathway from Boston to Milton and a bridge being designed, I guess. And they need some boring information from that area, what the soils are. And I went to take a look at it, the site. You might have gotten a copy of the photos in your package. Did you all?
No.
I got it by email.
Okay.
So I saw it, but not in the package.
Sure, okay. In any case, I went to see the site. It's a pretty dominated by Greenbrier site right now. They're going to do a boring about 20 feet inland from the sidewalk before you get to a chain link fence. And there is a orange flag that you can see very easily if you would like to take a look at it. I had no trouble at all with that because the overstory trees are quite high. And they said they chose the location to make sure that they don't destroy any of the tree branches up above the location. So that's just a notification to us. The second thing I have is.
I looked at their claimed exemption, that A through E.
Yes.
I had to read it 2 or 3 times to see whether or not they really are exempt, but and an RDA is not particularly onerous.
So
I was not convinced. I saw them under subsection G, not A through E, because subsection G actually talks about soil borings, but maybe I'm nitpicking.
Is it necessary is the question. Are they going to do anything extra if they do an RDA? Is my question. That would be my question.
No. And maybe I'm sounding like form over substance, but I'm not convinced that they're exempt from the RDA.
Okay.
Because it says A through E, and the soil boring rather is under G.
That's correct.
But it might be, a difference without distinction here because we'd probably allow it. No, I say probably. I'm relatively assured that we would. It doesn't, they're in and they're out without any disturbance. I saw the machinery they're going to use. It looked pretty sizable, by the way. And I don't know whether or not they can get that in there without knocking over some trees.
I looked for any trees, and there's a maybe 3-inch or less black cherry on the side, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's all greenbrier. I did not take the time to walk through the greenbrier.
Okay, but are you convinced that they are relatively assured, not convinced, but are you relatively assured that they can get in and out with that machinery without knocking down trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All
Yep.
right.
I have no trouble with the proposed work.
They were pretty firm about that too in their letter, were they not, Steve?
Yes. Yes.
Firm about what? Not knocking down the trees.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
I know. Do you know anything about? I've not heard about a new pathway to Boston and a new bridge. That would be very expensive to put a bridge across the Neponset there. Wow.
yes, it would be expensive, but he even had a name for it, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for my notes, and I don't see them. Oh, here we go. Is this it? One moment. Yeah, let me just tell you what he on email. Okay, geotechnical boring is required within the buffer zone and riverfront area associated with the Neponset River on DCR property. Our work is approximately 55 feet from the limits of mean annual high water and will also be separated from the river by an existing chain link fence. And work, I don't know if you got that in your email as well?
I did, and that chain link fence didn't make me feel any better.
Well, that's to limit their, it's a limit of work, really. That's what it's used for. It tells them not to go past there. That's all. And then the rubber track drill rig completed in a single day. No tree removal is proposed as part of the work. And boring location was located to avoid the tree canopy overhead. And it's called, I thought he told me what the bridge was going to be called, or that there's a pathway. I don't have it in this, I think it was Edgewater or Edge something or other path.
Yeah, everything on the other side is called Edgewater.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's all a DCR corridor on both sides of the channel.
Mhm.
And at this site near Concord Ave in Milton, a bridge would connect to Osceola Street.
Yes.
In Hyde Park or Mattapan. I'm not sure which that is.
Right.
That area is sometimes called Belknap Road. I think this could be a nice spot for a bridge, but I agree with John. It's a major project.
Oh, yes, the bridge is a major project. I agree. Yeah. So,
But to your knowledge, it's a pedestrian bridge. Is that correct? Not a car bridge?
oh, yes. If it were a car bridge, they'd be a lot more borings, John. A lot more. So I'm inclined to allow them to do it without further permitting, John.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because of the representation that there'll be no tree damage.
Sure. Okay. And since it's on a location that's easily observable from the roadway as you drive past, we can pick up any problems very quickly. Okay. Again, it's across from 176 Truman Parkway. And as Tom said, it's across from Osceola on the other side.
Right. Well, remember that's the same, that address is the same address as 16 Armour Street, which is a 40B project that's probably going to clip our jurisdiction. It's going to be really close. But if you go 200 feet from the bank of the Neponset, I don't know if there's any wetland in there. But even if you go 200 feet, it's going to be close as to whether or not that 40B project comes to us.
Understood. Right. Right.
I think the thinking about this is that if you live on the north or the west side of the Neponset and you want to use the Neponset Trail, you can't get to it except at Blue Hill Avenue or Fairmount Street, which is a long way to go. So this would give a lot more people now living in Boston easy access to the River Greenway. And if you drive Truman Parkway like I do, you know that there are a lot of people already using that paved path. And this would mean quite a few more.
What about the bridge at Ryan Playground?
Well, that's even further away.
Correct.
Because that's past Blue Hill Ave.
Yeah.
This is between Blue Hill Ave and Fairmount, where Truman Parkway goes high over the river.
Right, I know.
I guess it's Brush Hill Road in a portion of it. Truman Parkway doesn't begin till Brush Hill starts up the hill, I think, at Amore Road.
Right, right, exactly.
Okay.
Shall we go on?
Yes, please.
The next item I have is, let me go through the easy ones first. And okay, the next item I have is 1 Elliott Street. Remember the boring that was supposed to have been done? That
Yes.
will be starting on tomorrow morning. In case anybody wants to watch, probably only take a day. I will probably be there late morning to take a look at it.
Good. I'd be grateful if you could keep an eye on it.
Sure. Okay. Next, we received the Milton Academy RAO report from GEI, the annual report. Mr. Fagan is not coming in. He's just he put a report together. And lastly, 5 Wagon Wheel Drive. I was asked to go there by Kathy yesterday morning, and I took a look at the site. And let me see if I have the photograph available so I could show you. What happened was the gentleman who lives there evidently cut some trees and shrubs in the 25-foot buffer zone, as well as maybe in the BVW adjacent to his property. This is directly adjacent to 7 Wagon Wheel Drive that we worked on 2 years ago, maybe, did some plantings. Nancy Latanzio.
Yes.
Did some work.
I remember.
Yeah. And I'm looking for the photograph now.
Is this back up to the golf course?
No, it does not. It's actually as you turn the corner onto Wagon Wheel from whatever the street is there.
Countryside Lane?
Yes, I believe so. Thank you. Yep. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Master file. Come on. Make sure the device. Try again. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I know I sent you the photograph, John. Do you have a copy?
You did indeed, and I did look at it. And it looks like an enforcement order.
Yes, and I spoke to Keith. Keith, the owner, the applicant owner, today, and he said that yes, he did cut some trees. There were large vines out there as well, and they were over his house and his driveway. Rossi, sorry, I don't have that. You know, when you're looking for pieces of paper, you can't find them.
Yes, I know. I know.
In any case, I had a discussion. Oh, maybe it's in my field book. Put it in my field book. His name was Keith Rossio, Rosseau. About 5 years ago, he moved into the site. He likes it for the swamp, he said. A lot of trees they took down a lot of trees. There's a boulder retaining wall there. There were 2 or 3 trees in the boulder wall that were hanging over the driveway and over some solar panels. A big tree came down in the swamp. He spoke to somebody about 3 years ago and asked if he could take the trees down. They said yes. I asked him who that was, and he said he had no idea.
Some guy walking by, or?
Yeah, no, he called the town. He called the town. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm sorry.
A big part of Lot 5 is wetlands, according to the Milton GIS.
That's correct. That is correct. Yeah. In fact, the sewer line, if you can bring up the sewer line on that, the sewer line goes down the boundary line to the back of the house. And the wetland is between number 7 and number 5. Again, Tom, we had a project at number 5. So I think the enforcement order should say, locate the wetlands, and then tell us how many trees were cut and when. And also took down all the shrubs as well, which I don't understand the rationale for. So all the shrubs are down as well.
All right, and did you issue an enforcement order?
Not yet.
Under our new regulation?
I wanted to talk to the commission first, just to let you know that I was doing that.
Okay. All right, well, I think it's appropriate, and I think we have under the new regulation, it's sort of the first step,
yes,
the least aggressive enforcement order, the notification, and request that he appear at our next meeting.
You bet, you bet. Yeah, I keep the instructions in my field book, John.
Perfect. That's great.
Excuse me, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I'm actually here. My name is Keith
perfect.
Russo. And
oh, excellent. Okay, Keith, could you please explain?
Sure. So I apologize. Thankfully, thank you for taking me on at this late hour. So me and my family moved into Milton about 16 years ago. We moved into the current property that we're in about 5 years ago. Like I was talking to Steve, one of the things that brought us to it was the wetlands and the swamp. I've got 2 little girls and 2 big Chesapeake Bay Retrievers who absolutely adore it. So there is a retaining wall, a big old rock wall that was built when the house was built 40 plus years ago. And the trees that have grown up inside the wall are now having issues with they're starting to move these massive boulders. So I do have some pictures of that. I can try to share if you guys want to take a look.
Yeah.
But we did have some. So the reason that we wanted to take them down was I had a couple that were above my house, above my back porch. One specifically was probably within 15 feet. It was probably a 40-foot tree within about 15 feet of my bedroom. And it's just one of those things that I totally didn't realize that it was something that I needed to come to the commission to. So I truly apologize for that. I did call the town. I talked to somebody, I should have kept pushing to get to the right person, and obviously I didn't. So I wanted to make sure I could at least reach out and try to explain what we did. I do have some pictures that I just took today. I can kind of walk you through if you'd like to look. I'm certainly willing to try to figure out what kind of remediation I can do to try to make this right. Just so that everybody knows, we did put our house on the market last weekend. And that's when this all came to somebody's attention. I got a call from Kathy Bowen yesterday, I think, or a couple of days ago. She mentioned that you guys were meeting, so I thought it would be a good time to at least try to walk you guys through.
That'd be great. If you're able to share the screen, Steve, I don't know if you can assist on this and do some.
I'm sorry, I do not know how to share.
So
there you go. Oh, excellent.
There you go. Magic.
Can you see my pictures?
Yes.
Yes. Thank
Thumbnails.
Yeah, the thumbnails. So I can walk through a bunch of these pictures, but I apologize. I'm going to kind of jump in and out of them just so you can see what kind of. So this is one of the larger trees that was up against up against one of the rocks. So this is the retaining wall towards the back of the property. So this is our porch is right to the right side of this. The swamp or the wetlands is more to the left side. So there's this tree right in the middle, and there's another tree. So can you see my cursor at all?
Yeah, it's on 4705.
Yeah, that may be my cursor, I'm not sure.
I don't know. So in the background, you can see like a little chair. There's another tree that was right behind that large boulder. My house is right on the right-hand side. That the tree to the left is this absolutely beautiful tree. It's very close to my house, and you can see the roots are all of these trees. And you can kind of see to the left of this picture. All these trees have roots that are in very unstable ground, which I'm sure which is fine in a wetlands that's not close to a house, but after 30, 40 years, a lot of these trees are probably older than that. They have trouble. So again, it was a certain amount of so this is a similar picture where this tree, you can see the roots are already starting to pull up. This one's thankfully going away from the house towards the further along the property. This is kind of the top of the wetlands where it's really a culvert that comes from. We are on a corner lot, so it's on the culvert kind of goes from diagonally from one side, the top of the property to the bottom right, close to the other wagon wheel property that you guys were talking about. So like this is one of the trees that was taken up, that was up against the wall. You can also see that it was diseased. A lot of these trees were, so what we had when I bought the property, it didn't take me too long to find that we had this massive vine that was in the back. We had 3 or 4 different base roots that came out of the ground that was suffocating almost all of the trees in the swamp. All the trees that were there would have been suffocated rather quickly. So I went through and I did kill the vines at the base. This one that's the size of a leaf. That leaf is no more than a year old. I probably trimmed that back last spring. You can see that I haven't been out there this spring. And so this is kind of hard to see, but
could you try double clicking on one of these images, see if it expands?
Can you not see a full screen of this one?
Well, I'm looking at thumbnails.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry. How do I share? One sec. How do we get? Come on. See if I can share.
If you double click an image, it will expand.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm not. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm not a. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna reshare. Just give me one. Let me share my whole. It's gonna want me to do all the screens. Every time I open one, it's let's see, how about I do
Image 4716 looks like bittersweet to me, Tom.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
But 20 looks like something else.
Yes, agreed. But I don't know what it is.
Are you talking about the vine or the?
Yes.
It might be that herb called butterbur, has a very large leaf.
Yes, but it's not a vine, is it? That herb?
That's right. It isn't. Is this a vine with the huge leaves? Like
it's a vine that has huge leaves, and it grows to the top of these trees. It was on top of the pine. It didn't hit the pines too much because it was pretty. The pines have been trimmed a little bit.
It's probably a wild grape as I look at it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. This one is.
Oh yeah,
I think
that's wild grape. Yes.
But it's never produced any kind of grapes, but it sure does do damage. So like I said, this is a vine going up a tree that's probably 10 feet high. And again, I trimmed this probably last fall. So it's about a year old. And these are the size of I think I had one picture of my hand. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the bigger.
Yeah, the wild grape I have not found to take down trees, frankly.
Well,
I use the trees for support only. The bittersweet, on the other hand, does take down trees.
Yeah, well, so it had totally infested the front part of the the swamp close to the wagon wheel roadside. So it actually we had trees that were overhanging the road that you couldn't see the tree. All you could see was these vines up 40, 50 feet. So if I go, I had one, let's see, not that this has anything to do with me taking the trees down, which again, so this, let's see, I've got one more decent picture of the, so this is a, this is just a lot. So there's a lot of trees in this area that the roots just pop right out as soon as the tree gets any size to it. This is a tree that we did so when Steve was talking, we had trimmed some of the bushes. I'm not sure if you're talking about the bushes in the front of the house or the bushes in the back of the house, but
I was talking about the bushes on the side, actually, along between the boulder wall and the wetland itself.
Yeah, so I had some landscapers come in. So I forget if I've mentioned already that we're planning on moving. So we just put the house up for sale. We're moving to New Hampshire. I grew up in New Hampshire. We are absolutely, this is a totally bittersweet thing for us to move away. We love it here. We had not planned to leave. Some family issues with my sister. Another opportunity for my daughter who has some special needs for the great school up there. So we very quickly put the house on the market. And so I had the landscapers come out and the top of the creek. So unfortunately, when they did the work over in our neighbors, the 5 wagon wheel, I think, or 7 wagon wheel.
Yes.
There's a culvert that's on their side of that's on their property that comes from if you're looking at our house from the right side to the left side onto their property. And the culvert had been blocked up for years and years and years and years and years. So the water level in the wetlands, or what we call the swamp, was considerably higher. The last 2 or 3 years, it's really dried up. So we always have a family of ducks that come through, or 2 families, but they can't survive much past April, May now. We used to have ducklings that used to come through because it was actually pretty deep at the far end of our property. So anyway, when they cleaned up the culvert, the water level went down at least a foot and a half. So the problem is if I go back to, it's the side by our porch. It used to stay pretty wet without being too crazy mosquito-y. And now it's bone dry. And so what's come up is a lot of grass and other kinds of stuff. So when we listed the house, I asked the landscaper to clean it up. That obviously was a very poor decision on my part. Everything that they had cleaned up was absolutely brand new. It was all stuff that was coming up because this is wet during the fall. The water will pool up, so it might be 4 inches deep here. And then as soon as the water, we had a pretty dry season anyway this year. It dried out really quickly. So it's that part of the part that I had, they effectively kind of weed cuttered it. What do you call it? And it wasn't anything that was less than 2 months old, 1 month old. So
what's going on in 4742? What's that one?
Which one? 4742. So this is the side that's facing, so that's the corner is our bedroom. So the bottom of that picture is the tree stump that was, if you remember one of the first pictures I showed, well, I don't know if you could see it now, but it was an absolutely gorgeous tree that's maybe 20 feet, 15 feet to the left, further away from our house. And it was straight and it was untouchable. It was part heartbreaking to take any of these trees down, but this one, you can see it, I don't know if you can quite see it, but it's leaning to the left. It's actually leaning a little bit away from the house, but more towards those propane tanks. But it was a large tree, and it was, when we have, because we're kind of lower set on the countryside side, we've had a bunch of storms that come through, and we've had a couple of trees just come down recently, coming across the street into kind of that area. And any of the trees that don't have really good root set, they've just been kind of knocking over. And so I like I said, we took down probably 7, 8, 9 trees. The majority of them, I feel that if I had come to you guys properly, you would have probably agreed and without any big cause. There's definitely a couple trees that I took down that I probably shouldn't have taken down. This one in particular, I feel particularly bad about. This was a very tall pine. It was right on our driveway. So you would have, if you were looking at the street side that Steve showed, this would have been very close to it's probably 10 feet from the driveway. It was a extremely tall pine. And it was definitely within striking zone of my house, but it probably wasn't in a huge amount of danger. This one is, so the tree that I was just showing you was a little bit closer to the wall than that one, but it was the same size. It was massive. And when the wind blows, that one still scares me a little bit. Like I said, I got 2 little girls. That's my driveway right there. So, that one, was far enough back that I figured if it falls, it probably won't hit my house. But the other one, I didn't feel so comfortable about. But like I said, I do have solar panels. The trees certainly helped a little bit, but not terribly. There's the one big pine probably was in the solar, but the rest of them really weren't. Majority of them were kind of on the side of the porch side, which the solar panels are on the garage side. So again, I apologize profusely. And I kind of
Steve, Keith, can I interrupt you and ask Steve a question? Do you have a sense of the number of trees that are jurisdictional, or is that? I mean, do we need a delineation as to what the number is of trees removed within our jurisdiction?
John, I did not go onto the property as instructed, so I have no idea how many trees are out there, because the area of landscaping work extended around a corner as well, and I never saw, for example, that tree that he showed near the bedroom. Never saw that stump at all. Couldn't see it from where I was looking. So yes, I think we need a delineation of the BVW there, and then a count of the number of stumps and the sizes. That's what I would suggest.
All right, that makes sense to me. It sounds like the rational way to do that. And we do have a performance standard, Keith, for replacing trees that have been taken down within our jurisdiction. And I understand if it's a public safety issue, I get it. I'm not contesting that, but a lot of people often say, "Oh, public safety," just because they feel like changing their landscape view. So we need to know where the wetlands are, and then get a survey that is the number of trees that were taken down. We do have a performance standard that's based upon diameter at breast height. It's actually circumference at breast height, and we try to have the sum of the circumferences replaced, obviously by smaller trees, because you can't replace big trees. And we do have a mechanism that if there's not a place to replace the trees on the property, or if there's not time, we have what we call a virtual tree bank. It's not actually a bank at all, but it's a mechanism where we have people fund a tree fund to allow the town to buy trees and plant them elsewhere if there's not enough places on site to replace the trees. In fact, if you were listening tonight, I think we were talking about Mr. George was supposed to plant 5 trees. He didn't do it, so he paid into the fund $2,500. That's 5 times $500 per tree. And the $500 is based not on just the cost of the tree, but also it's about $350 per tree and $150 to do the planting. That's how we came up with the $500. But that's a uniform performance standard that we've employed for years. So we need to get a survey as to what you took down. And if there are some that were diseased and dead and should have been taken out as a mechanism of maintenance, then we would not count that. Is there any way that you could do that on an expedited basis? I know you've got the house on the market. And houses are going pretty quickly at this stage.
That's the hope. So would I just need to reach out to somebody to do that? I don't know who would I reach out to do that with. I certainly could. I certainly will. So,
Steve, can you give we couldn't recommend a person, but we could give you a list of people that
Yes.
That are capable of doing that, and hopefully on short notice.
Yes. I can do that.
All right, so can Steve and Keith, can you stay in contact by email or by telephone and get a list of people to get this thing done?
Yes. Keith, I think you sent me your email already. I do have your phone number, right?
Yeah, I can give you a call tomorrow and just swap info.
Sure. Just
so,
I will not be in the office tomorrow. Just leave a message. Okay.
Okay. So with regards to timing, if I can get that survey quickly and we can come to an agreement, do I have to wait to the next meeting in order to get a resolution, or is it something that can be?
We don't have any other site. Sometimes we have a second meeting. We just had one on the 28th of June, and now we've got one on the 12th of July. So our next meeting is not until August 2nd. Sometimes we have extra meetings when we do site walks. We haven't scheduled any site walks, but I understand that there'll be time pressure on you because of a potential sale of the home. So why don't you do this? Why don't you stay in touch with Steve, and if need be, we could do we could schedule. We have to comply with the open meeting law, so we have to give, whatever is it, 48 hours notice?
Yes, 48 hours notice. Yeah.
So we'd have to do that, but we're capable, because we do it by Zoom, we could probably move pretty quickly to accommodate your sale.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll leave it that you and Steve will talk further and try to move this along quickly.
All
right, any other questions or comments from commissioners or members of the public? Hearing none, we're good to go. And Steve, commission members will rely upon you to get the information back to us. Okay?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, thanks, Keith. Any other items of additional business?
John, I have 2, if I may.
Sure. Go ahead.
First, appreciation for the vote on moving the date for the Conservation Commission meetings. I'm pleased that it did not have an effective date that's attached to the motion, as I have learned that there's still an open question about the select board. I hope that gets resolved tomorrow night and everything will be okay, but I want to be fair and let you know that I may be back to you on that. Hopefully not. The second is on bridges. In addition to the bridge that was discussed, there is another one at another point at the Neponset behind 88 Wharf Street. You may recall that there are 2 bridges there. One is the one used by the MBTA for the trolley service between Ashmont and Mattapan, and adjacent to it is an abandoned bridge. The state has approved about $32,000 for an engineering study on the possibility of that bridge being used as a footbridge to connect Milton and Dorchester across the Neponset River in that particular area, as there is a park in Dorchester on the other side. So there's an article about this in this week's Milton Times. And I'll see if I have some further information to share with you, but I just wanted to let everybody know that this study will be taking place to evaluate the possibility of that abandoned bridge becoming a footbridge connecting Milton and Dorchester across the Neponset. You probably know the bridge I mean.
Oh, it's currently used as a diving board. Yes, I
Yes,
do.
it is.
Do you see it? I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
That's taken.
There
from
you
the
go.
Dorchester
Thank
side.
you. Thank you, Tom.
Yes. Right there is a favorite drinking spot because it's very remote. I think it would be wonderful if you could get from 88 Wharf to Ventura Park. You can't now. You have to
Correct.
go all the way around in Medway Street, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Tom, I've got some great pictures of all the kids lined up on the bridge. This is just from like last summer, I guess. Taken from a canoe as the kids all lined up jumping off the bridge.
It's a little hard to get to around this fence. I'm not sure how they did it.
Yeah, they're pretty adept at getting around fences. All right, that's interesting project, and I don't know if the study is going to be done soon, but Arthur, let me ask it as a question. Do you know what is the status of the state? I believe it's a state grant that will assist in dredging I'll call it Milton Harbor, just north of that bridge.
Let me find out. I'll make a note on that right now. I think that is in the planning process at the present time, but I'll follow up with Marina.
All right. Because that would be interesting if they're going to rehab the bridge, it might be appropriate, if they've got equipment in there for dredging, they might have the same equipment for rehabbing the bridge.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I would want to dredge beneath that bridge before I drove off it.
So would I.
Seriously.
Here's how it used to look.
Wow, what a great photo.
Wow.
Where did you get that from?
I think it's from Boston City Archives.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Oh.
Wow.
Still recognizable. And you see Godfrey's coal wharf on the left in a pile of coal.
Big pile, yep.
Wow.
I couldn't do that today, right?
Yeah, and you need to bring that coal in on railroads or on boats. And how did it get from there to your basement? Coal truck, I guess.
They did. I remember those days when I was a young boy in Dorchester, Tom, the coal chutes that drive right up the driveway or in front of your house, depending upon where your coal bin was in your basement. Open the window, put in the chute, and away they'd go. We used to love to watch and listen to those coals run into the bin when we were kids.
Who's selling it now?
Hardly anyone.
Wow. Great photos, Tom. Thanks.
Thanks.
Anything else? Additional business?
Not for me.
All right. I think we're good to go then. Thanks all. A motion to adjourn?
Great.
Yep.
So moved.
Good. All right. Everybody in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks all. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.